started, first of all, I want to tell everyone that the recording of this will be recorded, and if I can get it through compliance, I'm going to put it up on the website so we can, re-listen to some of the ideas and suggestions and things that Rodney are giving us. So just so you know, this is being recorded, not the video, but just the voice or the sound. Second of all, if you're on, you'll see Jeff, you'll see me, and you see Rodney. Jeff is in California. He's the one that answers the phone, helps you guys with all your paperwork. Rodney is the ethical hacker, and I'm going to let him, he just got a new certification. I'm going to let him toot his own horn about that. And then you see me. So we're going to I'm going to let Rodney introduce himself, and then we'll start with our first topic, which is Wi-Fi. So go ahead, Rodney.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My name is Rodney Gillette. I am a certified ethical hacker and recently have become a certified Chief Information Security Officer. There's only about 1,300 professionals with that certification globally. They're highly sought after, with the lowest salary range being $181,000 all the way up into the millions. So I'm really, really excited about that. It was a really hard week, but passed certification on the first go. I am also the owner of Firma IT Solutions. We're a managed IT and cybersecurity company. Jennifer Hicks is a friend of mine, and her company is a client. So we secure her business from cyber attacks, both within and without the company. I have a lot of knowledge as far as cyber attacks are concerned. I did cyber defense for the Department of Defense before starting my business 8 years ago. So the whole cyber warfare piece is something that I know very well, and I know how they're coming after you. And one of the things that I realized is that the private sector does not understand the threat very well. So when I started my business, that's where I went after. I don't do any government work. I just work strictly with small and medium-sized businesses like Jennifer's and like some of yours. So I'm on the board of Better Business Bureau, and it is an honor and a privilege to be here today giving you some knowledge. So thank you for having me this morning.
Rodney, thank you for taking some time for us, because if most of these people don't know, how old's the baby now? 6 weeks?
Yep, he was born on the 26th of December at 1:27 a.m.
He barely missed Christmas,
Yeah.
so congratulations.
Yeah.
I know sleep is a commodity in your house that you could use more of. But anyway,
they got coffee. God bless the coffee.
So the first topic, and this one is a little bit for me, because I get clients that ask me this when I'm out traveling. So how does Wi-Fi work, and what are you exposed, and when should you use Wi-Fi? Because nowadays there's Wi-Fi everywhere. So explain to us, not just our home Wi-Fi, but when we're out and about and we can't get a signal, should we log into Wi-Fi, or if we do, what should we be aware of?
When Wi-Fi first came out, it was open to interception by hackers, even way back then. So the people that came up with Wi-Fi came up with encryption standards to secure that information. One of those standards is WEP, Wireless Equivalency Protocol. It got hacked, so they got rid of it. And then they came out with WPA, which is Wireless Protected Access, as another form of encryption. That got hacked, so they stopped using that. So now we have what we're using now, which is WPA2, Wireless Protected Access version 2. And that has been the gold standard for a while. WPA version 3 is on the horizon. It'll be using a technology called blockchain. I won't get into that now, but it's going to be the new frontier of security when it's released. WPA2 was hacked the fall of 2017. The folks that created that standard have fixed the vulnerability. The problem was within routers. It was called the WPA2 crack, K-R-A-C-K. If you want to Google that, you can. You'll find out all about it. The vulnerability was anybody within range of the wireless network could hack into it without knowing the password. And the way they fixed it was by pushing what's called a firmware update to everyone's wireless routers. So for the people that have purchased wireless routers and have never updated the firmware on them, they're still open to that vulnerability and a whole bunch of other ones. Public Wi-Fi is typically dangerous. People don't always set them up correctly in public. You have people who don't have IT skills just pulling them out of the box and following the default instructions. It's like, all right, my wireless is up, and then they just leave it there, never really securing it appropriately. So we have people being able to access a wireless network and connect to your computers at the office that have sensitive information on it. We have people connecting to guest wireless networks, being able to connect to servers that have all the company data on it. It's pretty crazy, some of the stuff that I've seen out in public. So let's say you're traveling and you want to go to Starbucks and use their Wi-Fi. Starbucks, every single one of them has a Wi-Fi. The name of that Wi-Fi is called Google Starbucks. That's the name of it. The problem with that is I can sit in Starbucks with the device and broadcast a wireless network with that exact same name. So when you go looking for wireless networks to connect to, you'll see 2 Google Starbucks, and one of them will be mine. And you have a 50% chance of connecting to the wrong one. And when you do, I'm able to do something called packet sniffing. So to tell you what a packet is, as network information moves across the network, they move in little chunks called packets. And with a certain hacker application, I can intercept those packets and construct them and find out information about the websites you're visiting, the files you're opening, what's in those files, all that stuff. That's why encryption is so important. If you ever have the chance, a lot of you have, I have an iPhone X from Verizon. It has a hotspot feature on it. I recommend that you use that whenever possible. When it's connected to 4G, 4G speeds are pretty fast. 3G speed is like dial-up. It's kind of unbearable. 5G infrastructure is being put in right now. Is going to be super, super fast. But these cell phone carriers also have other products. Verizon calls them jetpacks, and they allow you to take a 4G signal and broadcast it as a wireless network and connect up to like 10, 12 devices to it. I recommend you use those. If you ever have the ability to use your own hotspot, use that. That is the safest thing for you to use. If you have to use a public Wi-Fi, you need to engage what's called a VPN, a virtual private network. For all my clients, I build these into their systems. For Jennifer, I'm going to be building one in her new home. Congratulations on your new house.
Thank you.
Also have one for her office. And I've shown Jeff how that connects. He's been connecting to that to be able to get into the purpose planning servers to do his work. VPNs create an encrypted tunnel between your device and the network that you're trying to connect to. So nothing in the middle can be intercepted. It's just all those packets I was talking about travel through an encrypted tunnel. So nothing can get in and nothing can get out. It's very, very secure. The way I configure mine, I turn there's a lot of various settings to configure VPN. I turn my stuff all the way up. You'll have IT professionals that will argue that, heightened security slows down your network speed. We've got computers that are so fast and internet so fast that turning your encryption all the way up really doesn't have much of a performance degradation in your speeds. I don't know how many of you are affiliated with the military, but there's instances where you try to connect to a public Wi-Fi and then engage your VPN, which is the order in which you should do this. Sometimes when you connect to the public Wi-Fi, your VPN won't work. And that's because the people that created that public Wi-Fi don't want you using a VPN on it because they want to be able to look back at your traffic. They want to see what you're doing. So I'm an Air Force veteran. My wife is active duty, and we'll go to Peterson Air Force Base here in Colorado Springs. And in the BX and the commissary, they have a public Wi-Fi in there that you can use because the cell phone signals don't work in those buildings. They block them. So if you happen to connect to their public Wi-Fi, you cannot engage a VPN because they want to be able to look back into your phone and into your internet traffic and see what you're looking at. That bothers me, so I don't use it. And outside the military, there are other organizations and businesses that do block VPN connections. I think Jennifer was running into some of that when she was on her last travel at a hotel or wherever you were at, and you weren't able to engage your VPN over the Wi-Fi.
So that leads me to, so the first part of that was Wi-Fi is not safe. Doesn't matter where you are. Public Wi-Fi. Sorry, public Wi-Fi is not safe. So when I walk into a place and because the little Wi-Fi thing always pops up because I have Wi-Fi at home, I have Wi-Fi here, but they're safe because we have them encrypted.
Yes.
But what you're saying is probably should turn that off, or I always cancel. I never connect. But what if I have a phone that I don't really have a whole lot of stuff on? I might check a few emails. I might have 25 contacts and phone numbers like my doctor's office and my 2 friends and my family. So what are they really getting if I go to a Wi-Fi and I'm sitting there searching for something on a phone that doesn't have a lot of data? What's some of the other risk that I'm exposed to? Now, I don't do that because my phone has a lot of stuff on it. It's encrypted, and I do that. But I have a lot of clients and friends that they're always on Wi-Fi. So what are they exposing themselves to if they don't think they have a lot of information on their phone?
So the example you gave me, that those little bits of information in your example, is golden information for hackers. You said you had your doctor's information there. You have maybe 25 contacts in there. A lot of these cyber attacks, people think that the cyber attack is about them. It's not always about you. A lot of times they're committing these cyber attacks to use you as a platform to get to other people. So you've got 25 innocent victims that I can compromise through your phone.
Okay.
The firmware update I was talking about with that wireless protection that people hadn't done before. Your cell phones typically tell you to update when there's a firmware update. They have those updates to patch security holes. There's people that don't do their firmware updates on their computers, or on their cell phones. So when they do that, they're exposed to any number of cyber attacks that have been fixed with the latest patch, the latest firmware update. Jumping onto those public Wi-Fis will expose you to those threats, especially if you haven't updated software on your phone.
Okay.
One of the other things that hackers are able to accomplish through Wi-Fi, especially if you haven't updated it, they're able to push software to your phone. So it's not always about extracting data. Sometimes I want to put a little hook in your system so you connect to a nefarious wireless access point somewhere, and I end up dropping a piece of software on your phone. I've seen this done before. Well, there'll be like a message that'll pop up on your phone that looks like a firmware update, or looks like some type of like message that your phone would typically give you, but it's not. It's somebody trying to hack your phone through that Wi-Fi. So you say, yeah, sure, go ahead, give me that update. You just downloaded some file into your phone. So then you take your phone back to your office, and then you connect to your super secure Wi-Fi at your office. Well, that hacker app is already on your phone. So once it's behind your secure network, it's ready to go nuts. It's ready to go ahead and start scouring your network and finding information and seeing what computers you have on there. And those cyber attackers, that software that they'll put on your mobile devices, and this is for laptops too. Mobile devices don't just include phones. Your laptops are vulnerable to these things as well. The remote attacker will be able to remote into your device and launch an attack on your systems and steal information and maybe push more viruses to computers on the network that it's sitting on.
Oh,
So it's a huge risk.
okay. So that
It's a huge
I'm going
risk.
to jump around if anybody's looking at our agenda because that leads me into the last one is with what you just said, what should I ask the businesses that have my personal information, or like when I go to the doctor's office and they have, a guest Wi-Fi, or I go to anybody, my financial advisors, my CPAs, my doctor, all these people have a lot of information about me, and
Hmm.
a lot of times you'll go into these places and they'll have a guest Wi-Fi. So is that
Hmm.
exposing them to the stuff all their patients and all the people do, and is that exposing my data?
So from what I've seen as I've gone around this community, it is exposing the business to cyber attack because these folks are great accountants. They're great financial advisors, they're great chiropractors, and you know family practice doctors, and but they don't know anything about IT and cybersecurity. So they went to Best Buy, they grabbed this $300 Netgear Nighthawk router that they thought was really cool because it's got like 8 antennas sticking out of it, and they set it up out of the box. They don't change the default passwords. They have their Wi-Fi. They make a guest Wi-Fi, um, and they don't set it up correctly. So all their stuff is exposed. I've been to um, organizations that give me this law firm, for example. It was a law firm I went to here in town that had a wireless network that had a great password on it. Um, so once I logged into this network, I was able to see all the computers for 3 separate law firms connected to the same network, um, which would allow me as a hacker to compromise all their data and shut them all down and breach them all. So I asked the owner, I was like, hey, is this the wireless password that you give out to people that just come in here randomly to have appointments? They're like, yep. I'm like, okay, when's the last time you changed it? Like, well, we've never changed it. Like, okay, and I can pick this Wi-Fi up from outside. So there's 3 separate businesses that are all exposed because somebody didn't set up the Wi-Fi the right way.
So what should we be
Um,
asking? What should we be asking if I go into the doctor's office or the financial advisors or the chiropractors and say, what should I be asking? I say, hey, I see you have Wi-Fi here. Um, how are you? What should we be asking just to give them a little bit more of a nudge, but then to know that our data that's in their computers is safe?
so this is what I have for you with that question. Ask them, how are you protecting my data? And if you don't get a confident answer that gives you the warm and fuzzies, that should be a red flag for you. If you ask Jennifer that question, she's got a confident answer for you. This isn't the first time you folks have been on the phone with me, so I'm the one doing this. A lot of the other businesses don't have someone like me doing this. They've got a geek squad at Best Buy doing this. They're not trained, or the owners trying to figure out how to do it themselves to save money. And for a lot of these businesses, they have regulatory authorities that govern them. The medical industries have HIPAA. The education people have FERPA. You got people with Sarbanes-Oxley. And they're not protecting the data. In Colorado, we have a House Bill 1128, which is a data privacy law, and I see businesses every day just breaking that law all the time. Another thing you can do is to check the website of the business. So if you go to Purpose Planning's website, you'll see that it starts with HTTPS, and that there's a little lock that shows up on your web browser. You go to her website. Same with mine. If you go to an accounting firm or a doctor's office or some other business that manages personal information and you go to their website and there's no lock, that's a problem. And it's highly likely that they haven't secured anything else in their network either, and all that stuff is exposed. So if you see that and you want to be a good Samaritan, forward them to me. We can help them out. Ask them if they're encrypting your data. You might get a deer in the headlights look with that, and you shouldn't. You may also get a response when you ask that question that, well, we process all our information in the cloud. We have a cloud this. I'm an accounting firm. I use, Thomson Reuters cloud platform to process all my taxes. So, that's encrypted. That doesn't matter. So that's when you say your cloud security doesn't matter if your computers aren't secure. Are they secure? That's your question to ask them.
Okay.
Ask them if they have a certified IT company managing the security of their systems. I don't know how to do taxes. I'm sure I could find out, but I wouldn't be good as a professional that's got, an EA or a CPA. So I outsource that. And many of you outsource your financial planning to Jennifer because she's better at it. It's the cost of doing business these days to have managed IT services. It's like having insurance. It should be something that you should be looking to invest in.
Okay.
Another question you can ask them is if all your systems crashed right now, can you get my data back? Ask them that. You might get well, I'm not, that's a red flag. Another question you ask is, do you have cyber liability insurance? So not only does that protect the business should a cyber incident happen to them, it'll also have some protection for you as well as a consumer of that business. If they have cyber liability insurance, should they get breached, you'll get the identity theft protection for all your accounts from that company because they'll be mandated to give that out to you.
Okay, hold on just a second, Rodney. So we talked about Wi-Fi and what we should be asking. I just unmuted everyone. So does anyone have a question with this piece of the agenda? Because we all are impacted, whether you're working with me or you go to the doctors. So I just unmuted everyone. Does anyone have a question at this point? Because to me, this stuff is pretty interesting and scary. And is there something that's on your mind we haven't asked yet? Okay. So if there's no questions, what I'm going to do is, because we hear background noise, and since this is recorded, so I'm going to mute everyone, and then Rodney and I are going to go to the next question.
Well, I have one more thing
sure,
to add
ahead.
to the questions to ask the business.
Yeah.
It's more of an observation. So like I was telling you about the website to make sure that's secure. Also look if this business is swiping your credit cards.
Oh.
In this day and age, businesses should not be swiping cards at all. They should be dipping the chip. Dip the chip. That's what we're calling it these days. PCI DSS is another regulatory authority. It's important. Swiping credit cards is not as secure as somebody using the chip to take your card. If you ever swipe your credit card, because you don't have a choice, always use the credit option instead of debit. And also do that when using the chip. If you have the option to run the card as credit when using the chip, run it as credit instead of debit. When you run it as debit with your PIN, that is a direct link to your bank account. So if something gets compromised in that transaction, they've got access to your bank account to pull all the money out. If you run it as credit, it goes through a clearinghouse with whatever credit card company made your debit or credit card, and that's a lot more secure transaction because from the credit card servers, it goes into your bank account. So there's another layer of protection in between that transaction when you run your stuff as credit. If they're swiping your credit cards, again, love to talk to them because those businesses probably don't understand that should they get breached because of swiping credit cards, it's up to $5,000 per card that they're going to be fined. And the banks are starting to randomly mark people who swipe chip cards as fraud. So there'll be randomized chargebacks on those businesses' accounts for swiping chip cards.
But I'm not going to be charged back. It's the business's responsibility.
It's the business.
Okay.
I mean, Jennifer, if you were swiping somebody's credit card, I don't think you do, but if you swipe somebody's card, their bank will look at that transaction and say, hey, that's fraud because we gave them a chip card. They should have used a chip, and they're going to do a chargeback on you.
Okay, as a business.
Hey, Rodney, how does that come into play at a gas station when normally, you kind of do the swipe or stick? Should you be choosing debit versus credit there?
You should be using credit versus debit there. Always use credit if that's an option. And if you need to take cash out, use an ATM.
Okay. So when you go to the grocery store and they ask if you want $20 back, you go no, because you can only get cash back if you use debit. You go to the bank to
Correct.
get your cash, and when you use your card, other places you use credit version, not debit version.
Correct.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. That's going to change the way I do some things. Well, nobody asked this, which I thought was kind of interesting. All those questions that he brought up, cyber liability insurance, do I have a company? So just so all my clients and all the people on the call know, yes, and I can answer all of those with confidence. But that's because I've had Rodney now for probably 6, 7, 8 months, and I had a different company that did a good job. I mean, I just said this today. I felt very confident. I just think that Rodney took it to another level, and in light of what's going on from a cyber and cyber theft, that's why I have Rodney. So, okay, so
Thank you, Jim.
yeah. So the next kind of group of questions, or the next topic is, I get this all the time. So let's just assume that all these people on the phone call are my clients, and they all have online access to their accounts. And they might have 2 or 3 or 5 or 7 or 1 companies that they have to log into to download their tax documents, to download their statements, to look at their accounts. So that's where this business is going. Some of our companies charge you if you want a paper statement. They want you to log in. So explain why login is always such a complicated issue, that if I can't freaking log into my account, why should I really be worried about somebody else getting access to it? Because we get a lot, and Jeff can vouch for this, we get a lot of people going, hey, can you reset my password? Because some companies, they have to call us to reset. Some companies, they have to fill out, 3 or 4 questions and reset. And then some companies, they have to call that company to reset. So can you kind of explain why that's such a pain, and could it be any easier? And how vulnerable are we with online access?
So losing your online access to an account, to me, would typically be a red flag. Let's see. What you don't want to do is have shared passwords across different accounts.
Okay.
You don't want to do that. Hillary Clinton had an email scandal. Everybody aware of that email scandal? So I'm not talking about the server on her personal property. I'm talking about the fact that the Democratic National Convention system emails were all sent to WikiLeaks. All her emails from that whole system were sent. So you may be asking yourselves, and I know they didn't talk about this, but what was the exploit? How in the world did they get all Hillary Clinton's emails? And so the day that happened, I took about half a day and went to WikiLeaks and, read it, just reading through it. It was interesting information, but I wanted to see how they got into her email system. And what I found were people at the DNC forwarding emails back and forth to their AOL accounts. Some people forwarding information back and forth to their Yahoo accounts. AOL and Yahoo are not secure systems at all. Yahoo's been hacked at least 3 times that we publicly are aware of. And if those passwords were the same for AOL and that person's DNC account, we only needed 1 match out of her whole staff. I just need 1 match, and I can compromise her entire system and start impersonating people and sending fake emails and working my way up the chain, eventually exposing all the email content and sending it all to WikiLeaks. That's what happens when you have passwords that are the same across different systems. So you want to make sure that every online account that you have has a different password. And they have to be at least 10 characters.
And then when I do that, I can't remember, and I know we talked about this on the first call, but then when I do that, I can't remember all my daggone passwords, and I know you're not supposed to write them on a sticky and put them along the edge of your computer screen.
Yeah, I got that note too for your other section about 3 things you should stop doing to keep your data safe. That's like the first thing. Stop sticking your passwords on your monitors. And don't have a file on your computer called passwords with all your passwords in it. But there are programs that are classified as password-safe programs. One of the ones that I like is LastPass.com, LASTPASS.com. So for this particular program and for programs like it, there's only one password you have to remember, the most complex password you could possibly commit to memory. And that password will give you access to all of your other passwords for your accounts. That program will help you make secure passwords. It'll remind you that you've had a password too long. It'll tell you if you've got a password that's the same as the password for another account. It's also got secure notes in it. So if there's like secret questions you want to keep in there, you can put those in there. And that leads me to my next point, those secret questions. You were talking about password resets, and you have to answer those questions. People lie on your secret questions. Do not tell the truth on your secret questions. I don't know how many of you are using Facebook or any other social media, but if you are a Facebook user, I'm sure you have seen posts that say, hey, you know, what was your high school mascot? Put them in the comments below. Mine was this. And you'll see thousands or hundreds of people with their real names and their high school mascot. Or they'll ask, you know, where'd you take your spouse for your first honeymoon? Or what was your first car? And you'll see hundreds of people's names and their first car. Those are secret question answers. The people that are posting those are collecting all that data so they can go back and reset your passwords from the back end. And they're going to start with the account that you registered your Facebook account with. And they're going to look you up on LinkedIn and see what LinkedIn account you have listed as an email account. And they're going to try to reset your passwords.
Okay.
And they'll be successful. They only need one. They don't have to get everybody. They just have to get a few people. And it's still a multi-billion-dollar industry, this information stealing from people. Another thing you want to do is enable two-factor authentication. So let me explain multi-factor authentication to you. Single-factor authentication is the most used throughout the world, and it consists of a username and password. That's how people log into most things everywhere. And that is an example of something that you know, your username and your passwords in your head. The multi-factor authentication that we're starting to see come about now is when you log in with your username and password, it asks to send a code to your phone. That is something that you have. That's the second factor, something that you know, your password, something that you have is your phone. It's not likely that somebody's going to have both to be able to compromise your account. So it might be the middle of the night and you're watching, you know, Handmaid's Tale on Hulu, and you know you get a text saying that you know somebody's trying to log into your account. And like, that's not me. That should be a sign for you to change your password. There's a third factor of authentication, which is something that you are, and that's where you know I can take this phone and stare at it and it unlocks because it took like a 3D heat map and all this other stuff of my face. Biometrics, the thumbprints, the retina scan, the iris scans, all that fall into what you are. So there's three factors of authentication. The voice is starting to get, you know, that's a little controversial right now, but voice recognition is another way. It's another factor of authentication. The cadence at which you talk, the way your voice sounds, another biometric method of authentication is how you type. Everybody types with a different rhythm, a different speed, and you hit keys harder than other keys when you type. So that's another factor of authentication. So if you have a GoDaddy account, if you have a Gmail account, or any other online account, you should look under the security section and enable two-factor authentication if it exists. That's another great way to protect your accounts from being compromised. Unfortunately, we're in the 21st century. The cyber threat is getting worse. You have to up your game and be more vigilant. So I wish I could say there's an easier way for you to log in, but there's not.
Okay.
You can try to release the pain, like ease the pain by having a program like LastPass. LastPass has a plugin that will go into your browser. That's another thing you don't want to do. Do not save your passwords to your browser. Firefox, Chrome, or any of those. Don't do that. If you install LastPass, LastPass has a program that will install into your browser, and that's where your passwords are kept. So if you go to a website that needs those credentials, LastPass will communicate with the website encrypted and put that information in there for you. So that's a safer alternative. And they also have an app for your phone, so you can have your passwords and stuff and update those on the go. It's pretty slick.
And I know some of my clients, you've checked this one out and you said this one works too. I use Keeper, Keeper, and I've had it for years. I mean, a long time. And you're right. It is, once you get used to it, it's a very, very handy thing. So LastPass and Keeper are the two that I hear most often from professionals like you. So if I'm hearing you correctly, you know, and maybe this will be something I ask some of the companies that my clients have accounts with, is a lot of times the logins are, you log in and then you've got to answer 1 or 2 or 3 security questions, and they change because whatever you put in at first, and that's where you would put that under notes. I put my ID and my password, and then it's probably going to ask me a security question. So that's not necessarily too multi-factor authentication, but that is another level of protection, right?
Yes.
She must be needing baby help. So with that piece, companies moving to the fact they want to text you a code is another secure measure to log in.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. So really, login troubles are just us getting used to, me included, us getting used to, we have to log in on a regular basis, because I think that's where a lot of the login troubles go. If you don't log in every 60 to 90 days, it locks you out and you have to start all over. Is that safety, or is that just normal?
That's safety. I mean, that's that company that you're trying to log into, that's them trying to secure themselves.
Okay.
You should change your passwords every 90 days anyway.
Okay.
To stay ahead of those cyber attacks.
Okay. So we started on the 3 things that we must stop doing to protect our data. So you've hit on some of those. Are there any other of those items that you want to hit on? Because okay, because we want to save a few minutes for my little issue. I want everybody to know what happened to me this morning. Everything's good. Everything's good. So nobody panic, but it's going to be a good learning lesson for all of us. So what other things should we stop doing?
Stop sticking your passwords on your monitors or keeping it in a file on your computer. Stop buying computers from the local consumer electronics store for your business. It goes for Office Max, Office Depot, Best Buy. They do not sell business class computer systems in there. They sell computers that you can play with at home. Those computers come with Windows 10 Home Edition, which is not adequate to securely process business applications or business data at all. Windows 10 Pro Edition is what you should be using. Windows 7 is going to be end of life next year. So for those of you that are still using Windows 7 at your businesses, you should start planning to purchase another computer, probably Black Friday-ish or before the end of your fiscal year or by the end of the year, so you don't get caught with Microsoft not supporting Windows 7 at all. So when I say end of life, that means Microsoft has stopped sending updates for it. They're no longer supporting it, and it becomes a huge hazard, especially on a business network. An example of that is, I've been to chiropractor offices that take x-rays, and the x-ray computer is Windows XP. Windows XP has been end of life for years now. And all those people that had their x-rays taken has all been exposed. So, that's where we're sitting at with that.
Okay.
Stop using free antivirus to protect your computers. Stop doing that. You need to make an investment in a paid application. Typically, that application ends with the words endpoint protection, which means that it's a lot more feature-rich than just an antivirus. So it's doing antivirus, it's doing firewalls, doing intrusion prevention, which means it'll turn all your computers into like a little network of scanners that look through the network and see if there's any malicious packets. I told you guys what packets were. If there's any malicious packets or any malicious traffic going through your network, and it'll stop it in its tracks. Antivirus doesn't do that. So you'll have somebody stealing information out of your network, and your free antivirus will never find it. Stop trying to manage your computer security if you don't know what you're doing. Okay? There's no shame in it.
I learned that a long time ago.
Well, I know you have. I'm trying to reach the rest of the people. There's, like I was telling you before, there's great people in other professions, but cybersecurity is not their profession. It's my profession, and I'm not the only one. There's other folks out there that are good at this. But when shopping for IT support, ask them about their credentials, because you have people that quote unquote know computers, managing businesses and building like home networks inside of people's businesses that need to protect personal information at a higher level, and they don't know how to do it. So make sure you look for that.
Okay.
It's the cost of doing business these days, so
Okay.
consider outsourcing.
Okay, before we get into, I'm going to unmute everyone.
Thank you, babe.
But I'm going to unmute everyone, and anybody have any questions on the topics or something that came up during the call or during while you were sitting there thinking about it? Because something happened to me today, and I'm just going to tell you guys about it, but I wanted to kind of wrap up the agenda items first. So anybody got a question? And I can't see who's on the phone. I just see user 456. So I don't know everyone who's called in. So just speak up and ask your question.
So it's tax season right now. Those questions to ask that I was telling you earlier, ask your accountant those questions, please.
Yeah.
Because I've been in Colorado Springs 3.5 years, and I've only seen 3 that have their stuff together.
Yes, go ahead.
So far.
So Jennifer, this is Jana. What I'd suggest is email those questions out so that we all have the questions we should be asking everybody. That way, it's just easier.
Okay, I will. I've been writing those down, and that was my plan, is to send an email out to you, but also put it in the next newsletter, just to kind of give people that aren't calling in a taste.
That would be great. So, Rodney, I have a quick question for you, because you briefly mentioned debit cards and not getting cash back. Do you recommend debit cards at all? Or is that just out of your area of expertise?
Debit cards are fine because they link to your bank account. So if you want to spend money out of your bank account, that's what you're going to have to use. I'm not a big credit person. That's like a personal thing for me, slave to the lender and all that stuff. But debit cards are fine. It's just how you use them. So if you're forced to swipe at a gas station, make sure you choose credit instead of debit.
Okay, it was you. You just mentioned that, and that's what made me ask the question. Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Yes, ma'am.
This is Sherry. Sherry in Kansas.
Hi, Sherry.
Hi.
Hey.
I was listening to you say that Yahoo is probably not a secure email system.
It is not a secure
correct?
email system at all. That is correct.
Okay. I don't use it, but my significant other does. So I'll tell him that. Thank you.
So and Rodney, that leads. So we know Yahoo and AOL. Where does Gmail fall, and what are the other options?
So Gmail, out of all the free email systems, Gmail is the most secure. But Gmail is not secure for your sake. They're secure for theirs, because everything that you give the Gmail system is their intellectual property. That's all of your emails, all of your contacts, your Google Drive content, your Picasa content, and all of it's written in the super long user agreement that you have to agree to before you set up a Gmail account that nobody reads. They just scroll through it real fast and hit next, give me my Gmail account. It says it in there that we own all your information and we will sell it in real time to all the advertisers. So, you're on Gmail and you're talking about these really awesome red bottom shoes. You'll start seeing red bottom shoe ads in your Gmail account, and you'll see them on your Facebook account because both of them are sharing information with each other.
I gotcha.
Yeah. And the thing with Yahoo, which is which is a risk for businesses. Let's say you're a business and you've got your email set up all secure, and you're not using anything free, and you've got all this encryption and stuff. When you send an email to one of your clients that has a Yahoo account, you have exposed yourself to a risk. If you write somebody that has an AOL account, you've exposed yourself to a risk, which means as soon as your email shows up in their inbox, your email address is captured by those nefarious third parties that are in every AOL and Yahoo account. They're in all of them. There's not a single one that's secure. So those people will add your email account to a mailing list to get spammed. So that may be where some of your spam comes from. Like, I don't know why I get all this spam. I don't have my business email registered anywhere it shouldn't be. I only have it used for business stuff. I'm getting this spam because you wrote a client that had a compromised email account, and it ended up getting sent to a hacker group that started to spam you. And those spam emails can look a lot of different ways, and one of those ways is something that Jennifer got this morning.
Yes.
So I'll let her tell you that story.
Yeah.
Ready.
So here we go. I came in today, like I do every morning. I sat down, I opened my emails, and this one was for the first time, because I get junk and spam all the time, and I'm pretty used to it. But this one was, to be quite honest, a little bit of a cleaner email. It was just words. There wasn't anything. I'm not even sure there was a link, because usually there's a link they want you to click. And I almost ignored it, and then it basically says, I know your passwords. And then as I started to look, there was a number of $987. They want me to compensate them, or they're going to send out they're going to send out stuff to my clients more from an embarrassing standpoint, not from a security standpoint. And Larry was in the office today, and I looked at Larry, and they wanted something to do with Bitcoin. So I scanned through, what I call crappy emails that I don't know who they are very quickly. But this one had like 2 or 3 things that just popped out at me. Larry read it, and we're both kind of looking at each other. It's the first time ever I basically got a blackmail or something that's similar to a blackmail email. So, of course, the first thing I did was text Rodney and go, I got this. Do you want me to forward it? And he goes, yes. So so that's what, just so you guys know, that's what happened to me this morning. First time ever I don't know if it's the first time ever I've got one. It's the first time ever one's got through my security and my email spam, because I don't get a lot of these. And so I forwarded it to Rodney, and he's like, yeah, I've seen this, and he wasn't too concerned. But I felt like, because I had Rodney, that he had to be lying, or she had to be lying, because, sometimes we can't even get into our server. Jeff in California, or Bethany, or myself, when I'm traveling, I'm like, okay, what's going on? Because it's just so tight. And I don't have a problem with that. So tell me what I did right or wrong, and can I avoid this? And what was your thought when you saw all of this, Rodney?
So, since you've been hanging out with me so long, you knew better as soon as you saw the email. But there are people that get this same email that are spooked, and they end up paying. You mind me sharing the content of the message to
go right
educate
ahead.
them?
No,
Okay.
go right ahead.
So one of the things with spam emails, especially ones that want money, is there's always an urgency factor. For this one, it said that they had caught Jennifer looking at some sexually explicit video content, and had recorded her checking it out, and that they are going to take what they recorded and send it everywhere if she doesn't pay them $987 to a Bitcoin address. The email is poorly written grammatically, which is one of the things that sticks out. But as these email scams evolve, the grammatical errors are starting to become less and less. And for some people, I've actually dealt with this email with some men that I know. They were actually scared of it. They may have been watching something, on their computer, and their camera was running, and it was like, oh my God, were they doing this? I mean, oh my gosh, and were compelled to want to pay the ransom. But I assured them that there was nobody recording them doing anything. If you're worried about your cameras recording you video-wise for any reason, they have little covers that you can put over your cameras to cover them up so you can't see them. But yeah, this was, just by looking at it, was a fake, just by the content.
So how did they get this? So I guess that goes back to, because this is where my question came in, is where the heck did they get this email? I use 2 emails for work. I have one for clients and one for, my Rotary and all this stuff. And now I will say that the email it came to is the one that's on my website. And so for you that have businesses that have your email on your website, is that just exposed for stuff like this? People just they can pull your email from your website even though it's secure, and then they can just put you on a list and do this stuff.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. I mean, public, and as a hacker, public reconnaissance is like the first thing that we do when we're sizing up a target. So we'll go to your website, we'll go to your LinkedIn page, we'll Google you and find all the email addresses that are associated with you. Find out your address so we can mail you some stuff. We got your email address so we can email you some stuff. If your passwords are the same somewhere else and we're able to cross-link different accounts, start trying some basic passwords. Maybe we'll create another Facebook account that looks like your mother and friend you. Or for some people, they'll create, some shirtless guy with, ripped muscles that may have like 1 or 2 mutual friends of yours, and be like, oh, okay, well, I'll like this person because they look good. Men fall for that same thing too. There's so many ways to grab information to compromise you, but the key is to stay vigilant. And training like this helps you stay vigilant. So I encourage you to take anything that popped out in your head during this call and talk to somebody about it. Next time you're out for coffee or next time you're out having a drink, like, man, did you know you shouldn't be swiping that credit card? Like you'll probably act different next time you go to a bar or go to a restaurant and like the waiter wants to take your card, but like, I don't know how I feel about that. Or I don't. Why are you swiping my card? Do you know that's not safe? Mm-hmm. You'll be different as a consumer after every one of these calls.
Yes. So everyone, unmuted. Go ahead.
Yes.
Rodney, I have a question. So if Gmail's not good and Yahoo's not good, and I've never cared for Yahoo much anyway, should you go set up your own email based off, your own domain that you've set up? And if so, how does that get hosted, or is GoDaddy acceptable for hosting that type of thing? What do you recommend there if Gmail's not good and the like? Is my question clear?
Yes. So for businesses, the easiest route that I typically set up all my clients on is getting a domain from GoDaddy and get yourself your own separate account with Office 365. Now, GoDaddy has an option for you to purchase Office 365 through them. Don't do that.
Right.
Don't do that.
Right.
Go to office365.com and get your own account directly with them. And as you go through the setup process for Office 365, there's a section in there that'll ask you to connect your domain. And in that screen, you'll put in your GoDaddy username and password, and it will program your GoDaddy account on its own to link them together.
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, good.
That I have
so one of the things
from a business perspective, but I'm looking more at, I have my Gmail account also going to the same PC, which you also just said, makes you vulnerable as well. So I'm trying to figure out, how do you go and protect that?
You can create another domain for yourself, lastname.com or firstname.lastname.com or something fun.com, and set up an Office 365 account for that.
So it just means you have to always have an Office 365 account.
I mean, I like Office 365. I think it's the most seamless for business applications. It's typically who I deal with as business folks, and it works really great on mobile devices seamlessly, both Android and Apple devices. Google has a paid system that you can use also called Google for Business, and their user agreement is different than the free Gmail account. So their stuff is private and locked, and it belongs to you, but there's a fee involved.
Okay.
So you could use that as well.
Okay. All right. Well, that helps.
I hope that answered your question.
Unfortunately, I have to go because I got to go into a meeting. But thank you. I appreciate everything, Jennifer and Rodney.
My pleasure. Thank you.
So, Rodney, that
bye-bye.
kind of thanks, Janet. That leads me into, I have a Gmail account, but my Gmail account is stuff like, it's not anything business. I don't forward stuff to business, and so I don't think we can avoid free email accounts. But what I'm thinking or hearing is if we're going to have one, you just got to be aware that everything you put on Google or Gmail is theirs. They own that, and that's.
Said you take it at 12:30, 1 o'clock.
Oh, let me mute.
They send it out for ads.
Okay.
They sell the information for ads. I mean, if you're just don't use it for business.
Okay.
When you see, like, if you talk to a chiropractor or networking, and you get a card from somebody who's in a profession that deals with private information, they have like a Yahoo account or Gmail account or something as their business email, now you have something to tell them.
Gotcha. Well, I'm going to unmute everybody one more time. Does anyone have a final question? I'm going to send emails out with the updates and the questions, but also I'm going to send in that email questions that I'd like everybody listening to send back to say what you thought, was it of benefit, what would you have liked to heard different, just so the next time we have this, because we're going to do this towards the end of the summer or early fall. And so we did this last fall, and some of you were on those calls, and he gave us some of the same things about going Christmas shopping, being aware, don't swipe, use your chip. And so I think it was worth reminding everyone, and we had some new people on this call today. So anybody have one last question?
This is Larry.
Yeah.
I have one quick question. A lot of people in particularly the Denver, Colorado Springs area use Comcast, and they use either the business, Comcast business email, or just the general, I get cable, I also get email with Comcast. How secure is that?
So the security is less of a concern than the portability. So if you end up moving or you end up not using Comcast, they're going to take your email from you. You're going to lose all of it. So I try to steer people away from getting email addresses at their ISP, because if you change it, you're going to lose all of it. They're not going to. You can't pay a little bit to keep your email. They're going to take it as soon as you cancel the account.
But it's more secure?
Yes. Than, say, Gmail.
It's about the same. It's the same.
Okay. Thank you.
It's the same. You're welcome, Larry.
Okay. Any other questions? Man, we are right on time. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone, for participating. These questions come from you. So just keep sending them to me, and if I can't answer them, we'll add them to these calls, and we'll get the expert to answer them. So thank you, everyone, and have a great rest of your week, and we'll see Rodney in about 5 months.
All right, cool. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate being on the call.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye.